The Professor and the Plagiarism. Dr. Eleanor Vance, at 62, was a titan in the field of Roman history. Her office, nestled deep within the ivy-covered halls of the university, was not a room. It was an archive, filled with first-edition texts, maps traced by hand, and the scent of old paper. She was known not just for her scholarship, a lifetime dedicated to a definitive, yet-to-be-published work on the logistics of the Roman campaign in Britannia, but for her uncompromising academic ethics. Integrity, she often told her students, was the only currency that mattered in the pursuit of truth. Her brightest star, the student she had chosen to carry her torch, was a young woman named Clara Jensen. Brilliant, charismatic, and relentlessly ambitious, Clara had been Eleanor's shadow for 5 years, privy to every source, every hypothesis, and every word of the professor's sprawling, unfinished manuscript. Eleanor saw herself in Clara. The fierce intellect, the drive. She loved her like a daughter, a successor. The Betrayal came not with a bang, but with a sleek, embossed cover. 2 months ago, Eleanor was preparing to send her magnum opus, The Unseen March, Supply Lines and the Roman Conquest of Britannia, to the publisher. Then, an email arrived from a rival university announcing a new book launch, Iron and Grain, A New History of Roman Logistics, by Dr. Clara Jensen. Eleanor ordered a copy. When it arrived, she sat in her silent office, the afternoon sun turning the dust motes gold. She opened the book, and the world went cold. The structure, the core arguments, the obscure primary source interpretations. It was her work. Not inspired by, not indebted to, but stolen. Clara hadn't just lifted paragraphs. She had taken the entire intellectual foundation of 3 decades of Eleanor's life and published it as her own, beating her mentor to the punch and claiming the field's most anticipated work. The shock was a physical pain, but the subsequent fury was icy. Eleanor's first instinct was to call the university, the publisher, to sue, to scream the truth. But she paused. A lawsuit would take years, devolving into a messy public battle of he said/she said, ultimately tarnishing both their names and casting doubt on the entire discipline. "No," she whispered. "I won't let her reduce my life's work to courtroom drama." Eleanor remembered the small, deliberate error she had planted years ago, a canary trap, a minor but noticeable misattribution of a legion's campaign route in the year 56 AD, designed specifically to catch a thief. It was a subtle flaw, a lie within the truth, one that only an author who hadn't truly wrestled with the material would replicate. She flipped to the section in Clara's book. There it was, reproduced perfectly. The wrong legion, the wrong town, the exact mistake. Clara had copied the entire structure without understanding the subtle, self-sabotaging error within it. Eleanor smiled. This was not a moment for legal recourse. This was a moment for academic execution. Eleanor moved into phase 2, the setup. Instead of attacking, she publicly praised Clara. She penned a glowing, and carefully worded, review for an academic journal, calling the book a breathtaking achievement that moves the field forward. The academic world, already buzzing with Clara's sudden rise, took this as the ultimate validation. Clara was officially the new star. The final piece of the trap was the prestigious International Symposium on Ancient History. Eleanor, a founding member of the committee, used her influence to have Clara named the symposium's keynote speaker, a career-defining honor. Clara called Eleanor, her voice bubbling with excitement and false humility. "Professor Vance, I owe this all to you. Your endorsement made the difference." "Nonsense, dear," Eleanor said warmly, playing the doting mentor. "Your brilliance speaks for itself. But you must be prepared. A keynote is not a lecture. You must be ready to defend your thesis against the most critical minds in the world." Clara, basking in her stolen glory, agreed eagerly. She had copied the book. She assumed she knew the arguments. The day of the symposium arrived. It was held in a massive auditorium packed with historians, archaeologists, and former colleagues. Clara, elegant in a tailored suit, strode onto the stage to thunderous applause. She was a picture of youthful triumph. Eleanor sat in the third row, calm and composed, a small, worn leather-bound volume, her personal notes, resting on her lap. Clara's speech was polished, confident, and utterly derived from Eleanor's unpublished work. She presented the intricate logistics, the detailed supply line maps, and the novel interpretations that were Eleanor's lifeblood. As Clara approached the section dealing with the 56 AD campaign, Eleanor gave a small, almost imperceptible nod to her former research assistant, who was managing the presentation slides. And it was this crucial logistical error in 56 AD, Clara declared, her voice ringing with authority, that crippled the campaign. As I detail in Iron and Grain, the 9th Legion Hispania was mistakenly diverted to Castra Vetera. She continued, presenting the slide that contained the precise, subtle historical error. Just as she finished the sentence, Eleanor calmly stood up. The entire auditorium turned to face the revered professor. "A point of clarification, Dr. Jensen," Eleanor said, her voice quiet but firm, carrying effortlessly across the silent room. "A magnificent presentation, but I must question a minor detail." Clara, momentarily flustered, forced a smile. "Of course, Professor Vance. Always happy to engage with a titan of the field." "The diversion in 56 AD, Eleanor continued, her eyes never leaving Clara's. "It was the 9th Legion, yes. But the diversion was not to Castra Vetera. Castra Vetera was not founded until 65 AD, a simple chronological impossibility." A low murmur rippled through the audience. Clara's face went white. Eleanor walked slowly to the stage, her presence instantly dominating the space. The historical record, as sourced from the recently digitized Severus scrolls, shows that the actual diversion was to Isirium Brigantum, and it was done by a unit of the 2nd Legion Augusta, not the 9th. A key distinction that, if missed, undermines the entire supply line argument for the rest of the chapter. She paused, letting the implication sink in. "This mistake is a foundational error, Dr. Jensen. One that any scholar who had spent decades researching the primary texts would immediately recognize. It suggests a lack of intellectual originality, perhaps, or a simple failure to read your own sources." Eleanor then pulled out a single, heavily marked printout, a page from her unpublished manuscript. She held it up next to a clean copy of the corresponding page from Clara's book. They were identical, right down to the deliberate, false attribution of the 9th Legion to Castra Vetera. "I know this error well," Eleanor stated, her voice heavy with sorrowful authority, "because it was my error. An error I had intentionally placed in my draft 2 years ago to test the integrity of my internal network. An error that was corrected in my final version, but one that apparently remains uncorrected in your published text." The auditorium was utterly silent. The truth, cold and undeniable, hung in the air. Clara had copied the work so blindly that she had adopted its deliberate flaw. "You didn't write the book, Clara," Eleanor finished, her voice breaking slightly. "You merely photocopied it." The fallout was swift and total. The publisher immediately halted distribution of Iron and Grain. Clara's career, built on a stolen foundation, crumbled instantly. She faced academic censure, the rescinding of her degree, and was a pariah in the field. Eleanor had ensured the world knew the truth, not through messy legal proceedings, but through the undeniable evidence of academic dishonesty. Eleanor finally published her own, definitive work a year later. It was dedicated simply to the truth which always marches on. She retired, not defeated, but purified. She took the large advance from her book and established the Eleanor Vance Research Ethics Endowment, a scholarship program with a terrifyingly strict code of conduct. Its first rule: the pursuit of truth must never be sacrificed for the pursuit of glory. She found a profound, quiet peace. She hadn't sought revenge. She had sought correction. She ensured that her legacy would be one of honesty, and by exposing the flaw in her successor, she ensured her field would be stronger and more ethically guarded than ever before.